today's random draw.
Oh, wow.
Against Polychronopoulos. So it starts with a raise from Polychronopoulos pre-flop. Called by Nguyen on the button. So king, queen, 9, 2 spade flop. Action goes check, check. Turn card. It's the queen of hearts pairing the board. And after Polychronopoulos checked, Nguyen bet. There's a call, and the river card is the ace of spades. Straighty, flushy, paired board, check. Bet.
All in. Whoa.
All in.
Couple stacks of blue there. He's got her covered.
Clearly a big decision.
I like
Thi Xua Nguyen.
I like the intense camera angles, the zooming in, changing.
Dramatic zoom.
And she folds ace queen.
A full house.
Whoa.
And Polychronopoulos shows aces.
What?
He had a better full house. What inspired fold.
Are you serious? What?
How could she have made this fold here? Let's have a look at the combinatorics in the hand and, determine under what assumptions you can make a fold like that. Let's assume you start off with a 3-betting range of 43 combinations here, which is ace-jack plus, 9s plus, and ace-10 suited plus, with king-jack suited and king-queen offsuit in there. And we're going to leave out all these, suited aces here, down here. We're going to leave out all these other bluffs. I'm just going to assume that that is, what the opponent is 3-betting with. Certainly a very tight range. But I would even go out there and say that some people would not 3-bet king-queen off and ace-jack off with a very high frequency at all, especially just trying to keep the pot small, trying to wait until they're a little bit in the money and until not to, blow the pot out of position with these, marginal 3-bets, ace-jack off and king-queen off. Even in heads-up poker, sometimes those hands could be flatted. So why would they always be 3-bet big blind versus button here with some antes in play? I don't think that's always going to be the case. So now we will be looking at 34 combinations. And now we have to recall the hand. The flop comes king, queen, 9, spade, spade after the big blind was 3-betting versus button. Now the big blind checks, the button checks behind. The turn is the queen of hearts pairing the board. Now it goes check and then quarter bet on the turn by the button player. And then call from the big blind player. And then on the river it goes check, half pot, all in. And we can only see if timing wise that everything goes on really quickly, but it might be the editing of the whole hand. Maybe, there was some more tanking involved and we don't know that. And I would say that this is actually really important. Now, what hands can we definitely rule out here? It's certainly gonna be checks and tanks. Now we're down to 22 combinations. Well, what if our opponent here, when we're on the button's shoes and when we're in her shoes, what if we think that our opponent is not bluffing with this timing or not bluffing at all, or at least not turning those top pair hands into bluffs, like ace-king, very unlikely with the top 2 pair here that our opponent is going to check-raise-allin. Now, the potential bluffs that are still out there are king-jack suited, ace-jack suited, and ace-10 suited. And I would argue that the best bluff would be ace-10 suited. However, let's say these hands are not going to get check-raised-allin. Now we're looking down at value combinations of 9s, ace, queen, kings, and aces, because we determined the king-queen offsuit, by the way, which would only be 3 combinations, was not going to be 3-bet before the flop. If that is 3-bet before the flop, then I think this fold here on the river is close to impossible. However, if it's not, we're looking down at 9 combinations, and now we have to really determine whether our opponent is capable of 3-betting 9s to begin with, and then also check-raising for value on the river. I think that both of these options, like 9s could be not 3-bet before the flop. A lot of people don't 3-bet 9s, big blind versus button still. And even though it certainly could be, they also wouldn't necessarily check jam the river with just because there's a flush, because they are still not beating the river continuum range, necessarily with the nines. They can still easily be up against all kinds of hands: king, queen off, aces, kings, some slow plays, even obviously like one combination of queen nine suited theoretically could play this way. So nines, I don't think is going to be check raise all in. And now we're looking at aces, kings, and ace queen off. And these three hands are a bit tricky. Like aces, I think is exactly going to take this line almost always. Kings, there it's a question. Well, does someone 3-bet kings, check the flop with a top set, check call the turn because that person is already boated up and doesn't need to raise for protection and wants to keep all the bluffs in. And then, obviously when that's the case on the river, it's going to go check, bet, all in all the time. But the question is really, does someone check the flop with the kings after 3-betting pre, yes or no? And I would say that that's still somewhat likely that someone would do that. Ace queen offsuit, also the question, does the person 3-bet pre-flop? There's only two combinations of very few of them because of card removal. There's, by the way, no ace queen suited, no king queen suited, no pocket queens obviously possible because of the holding that she has here. And ace queen offsuit might not 3-bet before the flop. And then I think what is really key here also, ace queen offsuit might check raise the turn. The board is king queen nine queen, and now ace queen off might need some protection here, check raising the turn, especially with like no single spade in the hand, right? It might check raise the turn instead of check calling versus this quarter bet in position. There was just such a small bet of her in position on a turn that, at least someone would consider check raising trips on the turn. So if there was a timing tell on a turn, we could probably even rule out ace queen, and then we would look down at the value range. So this is really something she might have done here in game, really come to the terms that her opponent was not 3-betting before the flop as much, that the opponent might be already boated up on the turn, but without the king queen off. And in that case, that would be a lot of kings combinations, and then aces would always take this line. And even though it's just one combination, if we start the whole story with 30 combinations, well, 1 out of 30 is still 3%. If we start with 20 combinations, then it's a lot more. And yeah, when we go down to the nodes of the flop node, the turn node, and the river node, then all of a sudden, one combination is actually quite a bit, even though it doesn't look like it the first time you look at the hand. I hope that you guys enjoyed this hand history review with the Equilab and looking a bit at the combinatorics of things. Now, I'm very sure that a ton of people out there wouldn't have seen that ace queen suited and king queen suited were not possible. So maybe you picked up on that a little bit. I know that all the pros out there obviously will, see that card removal, but I know that a lot of recreationals who might see this and might think it's crazy because there's all these king queen suited, ace queen suited possibilities that are still out there. But no, it's not. That makes the hand, in my opinion, quite different if those 3-bets that are very natural, ace queen suited and king queen suited, and I think they're very close to 100%, that they're actually not even possible. So let me know also in the comment section below. You can also obviously find me on Twitter @AndreasFröhlich if you have any more questions. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you want to see some more hand analysis in the future. Thanks guys for watching.